We're going to be starting off the winter season by finishing US 19. Come on, let's go! Alright everyone, today we're going to be doing the other direction of US Highway 19, US 19 southbound, along with US Highway 19W. This direction of US Highway 19 is slightly better assigned than northbound, all because we don't have to see stupid Kirby. But there is still some favoritism along this route, especially in the southern states, as it goes from one extreme, the good extreme, to over to the bad extreme, as we're about to see in this video. And oh boy, will I have a lot to talk about that when we get to those mileage signs. So let us get started with US 19. But first, you're watching the TheDerpHog, where I make highways content on all sorts of different topics. If you've been enjoying it, be sure to hit that like button. And if you've been really enjoying it, be sure to smash that subscribe button so you're notified on all future videos. And if you really want to help out the channel, become a member today, where you get custom cool emojis, early access to future videos, along with one free Azure request per month. And if you don't want to become a member, you can always just pay $3 for a intersection request in future videos. Those highways will be listed down in the description below, and I'll make sure to shout you out when that video releases. So let's get on with the highway. As you can see here, this is the map of US Highway 19 once again, as it runs from a junction with US 41 in St Petersburg, all the way up to a junction with US Highway 20 in Erie, Pennsylvania. So for that, I'm going to talk about southbound US 19. So we begin here on US Highway 20 itself, and if you remember from my US Highway 20 series, I actually took a picture of the exact shot of US Highway 20 meeting with US 19. And at the time, I didn't really discuss about US 19's control for Meadville, but after further review, Meadville is the correct choice for 19 southbound. But right away, PennDOT decides to give us a disgusting looking acorn shield here. No thank you. But we do get a good mileage sign here. We get Meadville as our primary from 35 miles away. And we also need Interstate 90 as we're heading out of town, which gets signed west for Cleveland and east for Buffalo. And as our goodbye gift out of Erie, PennDOT decides to not give us one, but two more acorn shields. The one here, and then one with that Pennsylvania 97 keystone. I gladly refuse these presents. But here we are meeting with US Highway 6 on the outskirts of Erie, and we are now going to be concurrent with it as we head towards Meadville. And let us see what this mileage sign says as we become concurrent with US 6. Hey, we still get Meadville as our primary from 21 miles away. Here we are meeting with US Highway 322, and 322 is now going to become concurrent with US Highway 19 and 6. Here we are meeting with Interstate 79, which gets awesome control cities at Pittsburgh and Erie. And let us see what we're signed for on Interstate 79. So we get control cities for 322 and 6, but nothing for 19. So is PennDOT like saying this to US 19?
You get nothing!
But further up the road, when we split off from US Highway 6 and 322, we actually get signed for Mercer, which is a good choice. But I don't see why they could not put it on that sign with the exit for 322 and 6 westbound. Anyways, here in Mercer, we're now meeting with US Highway 62, and we're going to become concurrent with US 62 as we head towards downtown Mercer. And if you remember from my US Highway 62 Southwest video, this is actually the same exact picture that I used for the thumbnail of that video. And then still in Mercer, we get another mileage sign. We get Zelienople as our primary from 32 miles away. Here we are meeting with US Highway 422 in the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania, as 422 gets signed for Newcastle and Butler. And then once we get closer to Zelienople, we get it still as our primary from 13 miles away. We now get Pittsburgh as our primary from 39 miles away. This is awesome, PennDOT. Oh, but it goes away as 19 is now getting signed south for Warrendale. So why are you getting signed for a suburb of Pittsburgh? But here you are meeting with the Pennsylvania Turnpike, which actually gets quite decent control cities of Youngstown and Harrisburg. And here we are splitting off into a truck route and a regular route, and we're going to be following US 19 South, signed for Perry Highway, which coincidentally US 19 does eventually go to a town called Perry. Here you are meeting with Interstate 279 as it gets signed for Pittsburgh and Erie, which are great choices. And we're now meeting with Pennsylvania Highway 65, and what is up with these super wide shields here as we're about to move current with the highway? And this is where US 19 splits off from Pennsylvania 65 as we're now about to cross over the Ohio River on the West End Bridge. And here's a cool shot of the West End Bridge as we're about to again cross over the Ohio River. And on the other side of the river, now meeting with Pennsylvania Highway 60, and US 19 and Pennsylvania 51 are now getting signed to Interstate 376 for the Pittsburgh International Airport. And here we are about to join with Interstate 376. We're now getting signed for Carnegie and still the airport. And this is where US 19 splits off from Interstate 376 as 19 gets the Kentucky treatment. No. And this is where US 19 re-merges with its truck route here as 19 is now going to be continuing south towards Washington. Here we have our first request, this one made by the Xavier 456. He wanted to see the strip mall off of US 19. The reason why he wanted to see it because I believe this was the first ever mall he ever visited back when he lived in Pittsburgh. And he also wanted to see the Upper St. Clair Township Library because I believe this was his local library that he visited all the time when he lived in this area. And then finally, he wanted to see Boyce Road because Boyce Road was the road that his neighborhood was off of when he lived in the Pittsburgh area. So thank you again for these requests. And then on the outskirts of Washington, we meet with the coincidental route of Pennsylvania Highway 519 along with Pennsylvania 980. And here you are meeting with Interstate 70 and 79, and we get 3 good control cities and no comment for the last one. Aw, come on, Pennsylvania. You're doing so good up until this error here. Literally, the shield is right here. Why can't you now just copy and paste this onto here? Anyways, still in Washington, we're meeting with US Highway 40, and we are going to become concurrent with it as we head east. And this is where US 19 splits off from US Highway 40 as 19 goes you know where, if you saw the 19 northbound video or Quartermanch's 19 series. And then here in Waynesburg, US 19 is getting signed for Morgantown! That's awesome! Oh wait, I think that's only because of Interstate 79. Why do you have to trick me, Pendant? We're actually getting signed for Mount Morris. Personally, I'd like to see that Morgantown for 19, while 79 gets signed for Charleston, West Virginia. And after going through Mount Morris, we are now entering in our second state, West Virginia. And here we are meeting with West Virginia 7, as West Virginia 7 and US 19 are now concurrent as we head towards Morgantown. And here in Morgantown, we're crossing the Monongahela River here. And then US 19 is splitting off from West Virginia 7 and US 119, as 19 is getting signed south for Westover. No, that's literally right across the river. Why can't we just get, I don't know, Clarksburg or something? One of 79's controls. And here you are meeting with Interstate 79 as it's getting signed south for Fairmont. We should get Fairmont or Clarksburg, while 79 should get Charleston. And then our next mileage time, we do get Fairmont as our primary from 16 miles away. why is it on Interstate 79? Here in Fairmont, we're meeting with US Highway 250, and we are going to have a ridiculously short concurrency with it. And we're now meeting with West Virginia Highway 20, and we are going to become concurrent with it as we head towards Clarksburg. Here in Clarksburg, we're now meeting with US Highway 50 itself, and US 19 is now going to be heading south towards Interstate 79. And here is where we meet West Virginia 98, and we're now getting actually signed for Weston as our primary now. And then here in Weston, we're meeting with US 33 and a 119 once again. And like I said in the 19 northbound video, why can't West Virginia put a 2 US 48 shield? Because we're only like 4 miles west of its western terminus, so why can't you just put it there? And we're now meeting Interstate 79 once again, and it's getting finally signed south for Charleston, but that Clarksburg should definitely be Pittsburgh instead. And then here we get our first mileage sign in West Virginia. We get Sutton as our primary from 41 miles away. I mean, since there's really nothing out here in West Virginia, I kind of agree with that, even though I'm pretty sure it's a tiny town. What else are you going to sign? Anyways, here in Sutton, we're meeting with Interstate 79, and we are going to have a short concurrency with it as we do head towards Charleston. And here is where we split off from Interstate 79 and say bye-bye to it as it heads south towards Charleston, and we're getting signed south for Beckley. And then here on a pull-through after splitting off from Interstate 79, we actually do get signed south for Summersville and Beckley. And our next mileage sign, we get Summersville as our secondary and Beckley as our primary from 71 miles away. And then once we get closer to Beckley, we still get Beckley as our primary from 46 miles away. And here we are meeting US Highway 60 in the middle of nowhere as it gets the good version of the Kentucky treatment along with 2 bad control cities. Oh, here's the New River Gorge once again on this very high bridge. And then now we're meeting the West Virginia Turnpike here. And 19 is now going to be joining with West Virginia Highway 16 here as we're now getting signed for Bradley and North Beckley. And when I went on my Springfield trip earlier this year, I actually stopped in Beckley and got a cool picture of the US 19 and West Virginia 16 South Shields. Here we are going under Interstate 64, still in the Beckley area. And we're now meeting with Interstate 77 by itself, as 77 gets this blue Toll North shield. Interesting. I thought the toll signs are usually yellow. Why is it blue? Anyways, here in Princeton, we're meeting with West Virginia 20 once again, and we are going to be concurrent with it as we head towards US 460. And here we are meeting with US Highway 460 as 460 gets signed east for Petersburg, while we're getting signed southwest for Bluefield. And here we get our next mileage sign. We get Bluefield on the top line, Tazewell, Virginia as our secondary, and Richlands, Virginia as our primary. Interesting. Anyways, here's where US 19 splits off from US 460 as US 19 heads into downtown Bluefield. And then here in downtown Bluefield, we're meeting with our good old friend US Highway 52 right in front of this cool train here. And here's Mercer Avenue, which will actually, I believe, take you over to Bluefield State University. And this is where US 19 splits off from US Highway 52 as we're getting signed south for Bluefield, Virginia. Wonder why 52 gets no control city here. We are now entering into the state of Virginia. Let us see what Virginia has to offer on US 19. What? Why do we have a US 460 shield? US 19 is not concurrent with Business 460 or Proper 460. So this is actually very confusing, Virginia. And then here you are meeting with US Highway 460 once again. as we're going to become concurrent with it as we head towards Toswell. And here in Toswell, we're now getting signed for Bristol and Claypool Hill. And then in the first mileage sign of Virginia, we get Bristol as our primary from 67 miles away. And this is where US 460 splits off from US 19, as 460 is now getting signed for Pikeville, and we're just still getting signed for Bristol. And then here you are meeting with US 58 alternate, and we're still getting signed for Bristol along with Abingdon now. And here we get a mileage sign once US 58 alternate east joins us, and we get Abingdon as our top line, Bristol as our secondary, and why in the world do we get Damascus as our primary? You wanna know what the population of Damascus is? It's only 800 people. If you want to favor US 58 proper, how about Galax? Because Damascus is just way too small to be as our primary here, especially on a cross-country US highway. Anyways, here's where US 58 alternate splits off from US Highway 19 as it heads towards Damascus and downtown Abingdon, while we head towards our correct city of Bristol. And further up the road, we're now meeting with US Highway 11, and we're now going to be heading towards Bristol. Here in the heart of Bristol, we're reuniting with US Highway 421, and we're now going to become concurrent with US Highway 11E. And then here is a cool snow shot of US 11E 19421 along with Truck 11 and 19. And then here we go, we're now entering into the state of Tennessee. And like last time, we still get this stupid small green entering Tennessee shield. Let us fix that real quick. There we go. And then here's where US 421 splits off from US 11E and 19. And this is where US 19 now splits off into an east and west route, and we're going to be following US 19 west for Johnson City. And here we meet with Tennessee Highway 381, which will take you over to Interstate 26, signed for Kingsport and Johnson City. And then we're now meeting with Interstate 26 itself, as 19 and 26 and 23 are all getting signed for Asheville. Or are we? Here we are splitting off from Interstate 26 as we just get the Kentucky treatment out here in the middle of nowhere. Why not give 19 an actual control city like Burnsville or something? And okay, I've got two things here. One, what does this 2 belong to? And 2, why in the world are we getting signed for an unincorporated community? This should be Burnsville, North Carolina, not Flag Pond. Tennessee is being both provincial here and is signing an unincorporated community. Oh, so that's what that 2 belonged to. Tennessee Highway 352. Which is heading towards Flag Pond while we get nothing. But here we are entering in the state of North Carolina. Oh boy, let's see what North Carolina has to offer for us. Hey, before we get anything bad, we're actually remerging into US 19 proper here. And then we get good control cities. That is awesome! So, NC is actually doing well so far. And then at the southern end of Interstate 26, or future Interstate 26, we're now going to be joining with Interstate 240 here as we head towards downtown Asheville. And here is where we split off from Interstate 240, and we get nothing. How about West Asheville? Here you are meeting with US Highway 74 once again, and we are now going to become concurrent with it for a short time. And this is where the exit for US 19 splits off from US 23 and 74, as we're now getting signed for Maggie Valley and Cherokee. Here in Maggie Valley, we're actually meeting with US Highway 276 here. And this is where US 276 splits off from us, and it's getting signed for Knoxville? 276 is getting signed for Knoxville? That is awesome. But then again, US 276 Western Terminus is at Interstate 40, so kind of makes sense. And then here in the middle of nowhere, US 19 is actually meeting the Blue Ridge Parkway here. And we're now meeting with US Highway 441, and we're now going to become concurrent with it as we head through Cherokee. And do you want to know what US 441 is? Hey, I know this highway. US Highway 441 is a 939-mile route running from Miami, Florida, all the way up to a junction with US Highway 25 Western in Rocky Top, Tennessee. It is a child of US Highway 41, and it is one of 4 remaining children of US Highway 41, as 241 and 541 were decommissioned a long time ago. US 441 also meets US 19 and is concurrent with both 19 and 23, and also meets US Highway 301 and is concurrent with it in the state of Florida. Also, US 441 does go through some pretty scenery in the Appalachian Mountains. So that's a little bit about US Highway 441, and let us get back to US 19. And then once US 441 becomes concurrent with us, we're now getting signed for Chattanooga? Are you kidding me right now? Are we seriously getting signed for Chattanooga from 150 miles away? Wow, NC Dot, this is a rare W. Let's go. And this is where we split off from US Highway 441, as it's getting signed for Atlanta. 441 is getting signed for Atlanta, but we're now getting just Bryson City. I like to see Chattanooga come back. But since that 441 concurrency is so short, we just get the same exact mileage time. The only difference is that US 441 has left the chat. Anyways, here in Bryson City, we actually get a US 19 connector here. Interesting. And then here's where US 19 heads south towards back to US 74. And we're now merging back to US 74 as we're now getting signed for Murphy and Fontana. I like the idea of Murphy, but I don't know where Fontana is. But once we get on to US 74 itself, we don't get a mention of US 74. Instead, we get 19 and North Carolina Highway 28. Where's US 74? Oh, so that's where Fontana is. It's on US 129 as we're about to meet it here. We're now meeting with US Highway 64 once again in Murphy, and it's getting signed east for Hayesville. No, that should be Franklin, like what US 441 was signed for. Anyways, we're now splitting off from US Highway 64 and 74 as they get signed for Chattanooga. And we're getting signed for Blairsville, but what? But why? I want to see Atlanta if 64 and 74 are getting signed for something out of state. Hey, they do fulfill my wish. We get Atlanta from 126 miles away. This is another rare NC.W. And we're now entering into the state of Georgia, where we have a plain Georgia state line sign, and then the proper Georgia welcome sign is up in the distance here. And our first mileage sign, we get Blairsville on the top line at 9 miles away, and we get Cleveland from 42. If you're being outclassed by North Carolina, then there is something wrong with you, because what in the world happened to Atlanta, G-Dot? Here in Blairsville, we're now meeting with US Highway 76, and we're now getting signed for Iowa C. No, I'd like to see Atlanta or Clayton, not Iowa C. And when we join US 76 eastbound, we get this horrible mileage time. We get Young Harris on the top line from 9 miles away, and then Iowa C from 16 miles away. Do you want to know what the total population between these two towns are? Only 1,800 people. Yes, which is slightly bigger than 62 getting signed for TDO and Tionesta up in Pennsylvania. But seriously, GDOT is like coming down to PennDOT's level and is signing 2 places that are barely bigger than TDO and Tionesta. Let me ask you this question again. What in the world happened to Atlanta? I want to see Atlanta. Or if you want to favor US 76, how about do Clayton, Georgia instead of Highway C? Clayton is way bigger than Highway C. Sign Clayton or Atlanta. Oh, and what makes it worse that we now get an error shield for US Highway 129. Seriously. Also, where in the world is US Highway 19? And here's where we split off from US Highway 129, as US 19 is now getting signed for Dahlonega and Suches. You know what this is? This is Suches, a bad direction sign. Are you kidding me? We get Dahlonega as our top line at 14 miles away, and Dawsonville as our primary from 26 miles away. You wanna know what I say up to this mileage sign? 9. That should definitely be Atlanta. If you want to favor something on Georgia Route 9, how about do it the funny town, not Dawsonville. But further up the road, we get Gainesville as our primary from 30 miles away after we join with Georgia Highway 60. And this is how you favor a state route. And this is where we split off from Georgia Highway 9, as Georgia 9 is going to be heading east towards Georgia 20. Then our next mileage sign, we get Brazelton as our primary from 39 miles away. So now we're getting 2 places not on US 19? Now I'm confused. Why in the world is Georgia doing this? I mean, these 2 places are relatively big on their own, but why not sign something on US 19 itself? Anyways, we're now joining with Georgia 400 here, and we get Cumming as our primary now. As hey, look at that! Atlanta's back after who knows how long. But once we get closer to Georgia 53, Atlanta goes away as 400 is now getting signed south for Cumming. What happened to US 19 and Atlanta? You're seriously getting on my nerves, Georgia. Anyways, here's the exit for Cumming. And we're now going to be concurrent with Interstate 285 here, as it's being signed for Chattanooga and Greenville. I should really finish the other half of Interstate 285 one day. Maybe sometime next spring. And here's where the exit for US 19 South is. It's getting signed for Roswell Road and Sandy Springs, while 285 is getting signed west for Chattanooga and Birmingham. And then once again, US 19 is going along Peachtree Bridge here, as 85 gets signed north for Greenville. And then here in downtown Atlanta, we're meeting with Interstate 75 and 85 as they're concurrent here. And let us see what we're signed for on these 2 highways. Oh, we just get the Kentucky treatment because it makes sense, we are in downtown Atlanta. And we're now reuniting with US Highway 41, and look at that, Georgia Highway 9 ends here. And after going through the rest of Atlanta, we split off from US Highway 41, as we're now getting signed for Zebulon and Thomaston, which are good choices. And then here in Zebulon, we're now getting signed for Thomaston, which is, I think, a good choice. And then on the outskirts of Zebulon, we actually get Americus as our primary from 81 miles away. And here in Thomaston, US 19 is actually getting signed for Butler and Americus. And then here next mileage time, we get Butler as our top line, and then Americus as our primary from 68 miles away. And then here in the middle of nowhere, we're actually going to become concurrent with US Highway 80 and Georgia Highway 22 here. And this is a good instance of favoring a highway, we're getting signed for Columbus, which is actually on US Highway 80. It's a big city in western Georgia, so it makes sense to be signed as our primary. And here's where US 80 and Georgia 22 splits off from us, and we're now getting signed for Butler. What happened to Americus? And then here in Americus, we're now meeting with US 280, and we're now going to be concurrent with that as we head through downtown Americus. And our next mile and shine, we get Albany as our primary from 39 miles away, which is awesome. And here we split off from US Highway 280 as US 19 is now going to be heading towards Albany, Georgia. And then here you are meeting with US Highway 82 in Albany. And here's a cool plaque of Albany, Georgia. And this is where we split off from US Highway 82 as US 82 is being signed for Sylvester and Tifton. I wonder what our control city is. But still in Albany, US 19 is getting signed south for Camilla and Marine Corps. Why not Thomasville? Why Camilla? Oh, here we go. In Camilla, we're actually getting signed for Thomasville. And then here in Thomasville, we're meeting with US Highway 319 and 84. And 319 is getting signed for Tallahassee, which is awesome. And we're still getting signed for Thomasville. Oh man, now another error shield. Making it through Georgia without finding an error shield, challenge impossible. Here we get another Georgia dyslexic mileage sign with equipment as our actual primary from 29 miles away, and that is actually on US Highway 84. And yes, I looked it up, and Quitman, Georgia is actually bigger than Monticello, Florida. So this is another good instance of favoring a US highway. Anyways, after splitting off from US Highway 84, we're now entering into the state of Florida. Let's see what Florida has to offer on US 19. Oh look, it's an actual Welcome to Florida sign. And here in Monticello, we're in front of the Monticello courthouse here. And we can see that in the distance that US 90 is getting signed for Tallahassee. Let's go. And we're now meeting Interstate 10, which is also getting signed for Tallahassee. But that eastbound control city, no, that should be Jacksonville. And our next mile and shine, we get Perry as our secondary and St. Pete as our primary from 230 miles away. That's amazing. I hope it will stick up. And then here, when we meet US 27, we are actually getting signed for St. Petersburg, which is awesome. And here is where we split off from US Highway 27, but join with US 98 here. And then here is where we meet the southern terminus of US Highway 221, still in Perry. And then here in Chiefland, we're actually meeting the southern terminus of US Highway 129, along with the concurrent with US 27 alternate. And this is where US 27 alternate splits off from US 19 and 98, as we're now getting signed for St. Petersburg still, along with Bronson and Williston. And our next mile shine, we still get St. Petersburg from 131 miles away. And this is where US 98 splits off from US Highway 19 as it's heading towards Brooksville, and the state route, or county route, actually heads towards Chassahowitzka. Aw, come on, F up. You had St. Pete signed for who knows how long, but then we now replace it with Hudson. Yes, I get Hudson is actually a pretty big suburb of the Tampa-St. Petersburg area. But I'd like to see St. Peter because we were being signed from it for like who knows how long. And here in the Hudson area, we're now going to be forming an alternate route. And let us take the alternate route this time. Here you are meeting with Florida Highway 580 here in one of these Tampa suburbs. And we're now meeting with Florida Highway 60 as 4 to 60 will take you over to the Tampa Bay International Airport. And here's an odd thing, we'd have no fishing between these signs. So can I stand further up the road and fish from there? Or is it like between the medians of the bridge or something? Anyways, here just north of St. Petersburg, we're reuniting with regular US Highway 19, and we're going to be following it as we head south towards its southern terminus. And here you are meeting with Interstate 275, and we're now going to become familiar with it as we get onto the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. And here is the cool picture of the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. And on the other side of the bay, we're now splitting off from Interstate 275 as 19 is now getting signed south for Palmetto and Bradenton. And on the ways down the road, we're now merging into US Highway 41. And look at that, Florida actually gives us an end US Highway 19 shield. Let's go. So with that, we end US Highway 19 and move on to the way it should be. So these are all the places I think it should be signed on US 19 northbound and US Highway 19 southbound. You can take a look here, and if you agree with this list, let me know in the comment section below. I'd love to debate it on with you. So that ends US Highway 19. Thank you all so much for watching this series on US Highway 19. I hope you learned a little bit more about the highway, and I hope one day I get to go on more of the highway, because the area in Beckley, West Virginia was very pretty. So with that, here are my next few highways. Again, if you have any requests for these upcoming highways, let me know in the comments section down below, so when these videos is released, I'll make sure to shout you out. You can also check out a full schedule on my community tab, which I just recently posted. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see y'all next week on Interstate 85.